Hi, this is Nikki Schoonover. I am the training coordinator for Every Child's Hope, and today I'm going to be talking to you about emergency preparations and response specific to our Kansas City Stepping Stones program. So let's get started. So our objective today is for you to learn how to keep yourself and others safe during emergency. We are going to go through the ECH commitment to safety, what to do in case of a fire, or tornado, or lightning, or severe weather, as well as an earthquake, medical emergencies, if there happen to be dangerous individuals on property, use of agency vehicles, and then we'll be finished. This shouldn't take us too long, maybe about 20 or 30 minutes. So we'll go ahead and head into ECH's commitment to safety. So there's our risk prevention and emergency response plan. This is a very detailed plan that is specific to each program. So there's one for the Kansas City Stepping Stone program that really details all kinds of emergencies and crises that might happen and how we would respond to them. And so this presentation is really a very simplified version of that. We're not going to go through everything that's in that plan. So if you'd like something that's more detailed or talks about more situations than just what we're going to talk about today, please ask your supervisor about that. Some of you may have gone through it already, but if you haven't and you're interested, you can look through that and read through that, and it will go more into detail than we're going to go through today. Also, ECH provides safety equipment and supplies. We'll talk a little bit about that. We provide staff training on safety issues, like this one today. We do inspections to make sure that all the safety materials that we say we have and that we need are there, and then drills to make sure we know what to do if we are to have a real emergency. And then safety coordinators. We have people who are designated at each location who are in charge of safety. So in Kansas City, Johnny Winston is the safety coordinator for the male group and female group living, as well as the apartments. And then Carol is the safety coordinator at the administration building. So these are people who are in charge of making sure all of our safety checks and inspections get done, all the documentation when we do a drill gets done. They are good people to ask questions to if you're unsure about where an item is, to keep someone safe in a certain situation, or about a drill, or about any kind of safety concern that you might have. So let's talk about what to do in case of a fire. So first and foremost is to locate the nearest fire alarm pull box if there is one and activate that alarm. If there is not in your facility, you want to make sure you notify everyone and get them to evacuate. You want to make sure that everyone exits the building. You want to call 911 and report the fire, and then if possible contact other staff to request assistance, but you always want to make sure that you call 911 when there's a fire. If the fire is isolated and you feel comfortable and safe enough to do this, you can locate the nearest fire extinguisher and attempt to put out the fire. If this is not possible or you don't feel safe or comfortable doing this, then exit the building and attempt to close doors and windows on the way out, and then of course call 911 and allow trained professionals to respond to the fire. Once you get out of the building, make sure you do a head count to ensure that all occupants have exited, and keep everyone together and away from the building in a safe location. When the fire department arrives, provide information about the location of the fire and anybody that's unaccounted for or injured. Follow all directions provided by the fire department, and do not enter the building until the fire department has given you directions to do so. If you would like to use a fire extinguisher, if you feel safe and comfortable enough to do that and the fire is small enough and isolated to do that, there should be a fire extinguisher located in your building that you're in. You may want to take some time when you're in the building that you usually work in to locate where the fire extinguisher is, so you're prepared if you would need to use it or feel comfortable enough to use it. Make sure before you use the fire extinguisher that you notify and evacuate everyone in the building before you attempt to put out the fire with a fire extinguisher. Extinguishers that are located in ECH buildings are what we call ABC types, meaning they can be used on any type of fire. If you do need to use a fire extinguisher, make sure you pull and remove the pin located on the handle. Position yourself 5 to 10 feet away from the fire. Squeeze the trigger while pointing the hose at the base of the fire, and use a sweeping motion. And most of all, be careful. Once again, if you do not feel comfortable to do this and there is a fire, even if it's a small fire, evacuate all individuals and call 911. So let's talk about tornadoes, lightning, and severe weather. It's important to know the terms used to describe severe weather threats. So this one kind of trips people up. So what's the difference between a watch and a warning? I'll give you a few seconds to think about it. So a severe thunderstorm watch means that weather conditions exist so that a severe thunderstorm is possible. So it means we're watching for it to happen. The conditions are right that it could happen. Even at this point, everyone should go indoors. A severe thunderstorm warning is more serious. So this means that a storm producing high winds or large hail is likely to occur in the area and has probably been spotted. So all persons should go indoors and evacuate to safe areas. So we treat this a little bit more serious. So not only are we going indoors, but we're also evacuating to a safe area. Same thing with a tornado watch and a tornado warning. A watch simply means that the conditions are right for a tornado to happen. We're watching for a tornado to happen. And all people should go indoors. And then a tornado warning means that a tornado has been sighted. So that means we need to go indoors and then evacuate to a safe area. If there's any kind of threatening area, the senior on-site supervisor listens to local reports. They are paying attention to see if a tornado warning or a watch is issued for their surrounding area, and they order people to evacuate to safe areas. And then it's really their discretion of the senior supervisor to order people indoors during any kind of severe weather. And then it's the responsibility of staff and of residents to follow those instructions and do what they need to do. If you do need to evacuate into a safe area, the basement is always the best area. If there's not a basement, you can go to an interior part of the building or the lowest level or to a nearby building with a basement. Stay clear of windows, doors, outside walls, and open areas. Get in a crouched position and cover your head and stay there until the danger is past. Maybe a good idea to talk with your supervisor and ask where you and residents go in the case of a tornado or severe weather. That may be posted in your building, but it may be a good conversation to have. And maybe you're going to have a drill too that we talked about before, why it's important to have drills that may show you what to do and where to go in case of severe. If you are caught outside in a tornado, get outside of your vehicle and go to a nearby building or lie flat in the nearest ditch with your hands covering your head and stay there till the danger has passed. I know this seems really counterintuitive, but tornadoes tend to just go over low-lying areas, and anything that's raised they tend to pick up. So you're safer in a ditch than you are in your car because the tornado could just pass over you when you're in a ditch, but it could pick up your car, for instance, since it's more of a raised situation. So similar in the event of lightning, you want to get inside, avoid using a telephone, like a landline phone, except for emergencies, and shut down computers. Avoid bathtubs, water faucets, sinks, metal pipes. They conduct electricity. Once the danger has passed, again, it's up to the discretion of the senior supervisor to lift orders. And the senior supervisor will notify all buildings to return to normal activities. And if needed, the senior supervisor also assesses injuries, property damage, and implements any other emergency measures or notifications as needed in case a building is damaged or something has happened during the storm. Let's talk about what to do during an earthquake. So during an earthquake, you want to keep calm and stay where you are. Most injuries of earthquakes occur when people are attempting to enter or exit buildings. If you're indoors, take cover under a desk, a table, or a bench, against an inside wall or a solid heavy doorway, like a door frame. Hold on. Stay away from glass, windows, outside doors or walls, and anything that could fall and hurt you, like a light fixture or furniture. If you're outdoors, move away from buildings, street lights, and utility wires. If you're in a vehicle, stop as quickly as you can, but avoid stopping on bridges or overpasses near tall buildings, trees, or utility wires, and stay in your vehicle. Opposite of a tornado, during an earthquake, you want to stay in your vehicle. After the earthquake, you want to make sure that you exercise caution because there might be aftershocks. Also, we don't know the condition of utilities, so we want to make sure that we're not trying to use any utilities such as electricity or smoking, because we could have, a gas leak if a gas utility has been damaged. We want to make sure we avoid using anything like that until all of the safety of the systems has been established. Following the earthquake, the senior supervisor, in conjunction with any maintenance staff, oversees preliminary structural inspections of each building, including water, gas, sewer lines, and as required, utilities will be shut off. Buildings that appear unsound are not entered, and is needed to assure the safety and comfort. The senior supervisor will relocate staff and clients to other buildings. If there's a medical emergency, that's a life-threatening or a serious situation that agency personnel are not equipped to handle, we want to make sure we call 911. So some examples of those emergencies, and you learn a little bit more about this in CPR and first aid, is an insect bite or sting causing difficulty breathing, so an allergic reaction, severe bleeding, serious burns, choking if the Heimlich maneuver is unsuccessful, drowning, unresponsiveness due to a drug overdose or poisoning, heart attack, shock, fractures or dislocations, unconscious for any reason, and difficulty breathing. And even on some of these where you may administer CPR, you still want to call 911 or have someone else call 911. Even if you do administer, I know it says like the choking of the Heimlich maneuvers, but you could have someone call 911 while you're doing the Heimlich. That wouldn't hurt anything. So if there is a medical emergency, make sure you notify the senior on-site supervisor and the nurse if you have one on campus. Get assistance to manage the situation and direct the emergency personnel to the location of the victim. This is really important. Even though the Kansas City campus isn't huge, it could be kind of confusing for an emergency personnel that shows up, whether that's for a fire or a medical emergency or anything like that. So you want to make sure that you have someone who is standing outside of the building to direct them where to go so that they can get to the victim quickly, because it can be a little confusing. You want to clear the area of children and other bystanders, administer any first aid that you can, comfort and reassure the victim, and stay with the victim. And follow the instructions of emerging personnel when there. If there is an individual on campus who's dangerous or who is not supposed to be there, you want to make sure you call 911. You can call the receptionist so that staff can be notified, so buildings can be locked down. Do not pull the fire alarm, because this will cause staff to leave the safety of the buildings and potentially place themselves in harm's way. So hopefully that video was helpful in illustrating what you should do in an active shooter situation. Just a few things to remember, that when law enforcement arrives, you want to make sure that you remain calm, that you follow all their instructions, that you put down any items in your hand, and make sure you raise your hands and keep visible. Avoid making quick movements toward officers, such as holding onto them for safety. Avoid pointing, screaming, yelling, and don't stop to ask officers questions for help or direction. Just proceed in the direction from which the officers are entering the area. That's the best thing to do, because you don't want to be confused as someone who's involved with the active shooting and them to think that you're a bad guy. So let's talk a little bit about community safety. I don't know how often you do go into the community in Kansas City, but you do go possibly into the apartments, kids' apartments, which can be kind of in the community. So it's important to make sure that you have your cell phone with you. And make sure that it's charged, because that's, a lifeline if something were to be unsafe. Also, if you're going into someone's home or a client's apartment even, it'd be a good idea to kind of know if there have been other situations where that client has gotten aggressive, or are you entering into a situation where you can already tell just from your assessing that that client is agitated or aggressive. May not be the best time to visit. It's really important to make sure that you keep yourself safe, and important to think about the best way to get yourself out of that situation when you are. It might also be good for someone to know that you're going there and how long you expect to be there and when you expect to be back, so that if it's taking a little longer, or that if you don't come back when you're supposed to, that can kind of be a red flag that you may need help or assistance. Also, in transporting clients, you want to make sure that you're doing that with enough staff, that you're doing that, if at all possible, with clients who are not agitated or aggressive. So we want to be thinking about that. And then also want to make sure that we're using our verbal de-escalation skills. If we are in a situation, like visiting a client at an apartment and they're very aggressive, we may just need to de-escalate the situation as much as we can to get out of there. So just a few things to think about when you're out in the community. Let's talk a little bit about using agency vehicles. I don't exactly know what the process is like in Kansas City, so this may be a good thing to chat with your supervisor about. But make sure whatever the process is to assign them out, or to use the vehicle, that you follow that, and then make sure that you follow the process when turning them back in. You really want to make sure that if a coworker has a vehicle reserved, that you're not taking that, because they really might need that for a specific purpose, and it's not going to make them very happy. Also, make sure to return the keys so that when the next driver comes to get that vehicle, they're not looking for the keys. There's no food, drink, or smoking allowed in any vehicle, so we want to make sure that we're not doing that. Also, drivers are responsible for cleaning up all messes left in the vehicle. Everyone needs to do their part to ensure that they remain in good order, and we want to make sure that we clean that up so someone else doesn't have to deal with our mess, as much as we don't want to deal with their mess. I'm not sure where the gas cards are for the vehicles in Kansas City, but you want to make sure that you locate those. And if you return a vehicle to campus that seems to be having a problem, please notify the front desk or the person you check the car out with so that the problem can be addressed. We don't want someone else to take that car out and them to have the same problem, so please notify someone of that. If you experience a problem with an accident, with an agency vehicle, follow the vehicle accident or vehicle breakdown protocols that are located in the vehicle. If you are out driving agency vehicle and it breaks down, make sure you pull the vehicle off to an adjacent lot or a low traffic area. Make sure you exercise caution as people exit the vehicle. Keep the children together in a safe distance from the road. This is a really dangerous thing where people can often get hurt when there is an accident and people are out in the road and there are other cars driving by. So we want to make sure that we keep them away from the road. and then notify the senior on-site supervisor of the breakdown and any other requests that you might need as far as assistance in managing kids or getting alternate transportation or obtaining emergency road service or a tow. All right, in the case of an accident, kind of similar, we want to make sure that everyone's safe. Seek any immediate medical attention for injuries. Call 911 if you need to. Exercise caution as passengers exit the vehicle. Once again, keep children together in a safe distance from the road. Notify the senior on-site supervisor of the accident, and as needed, request any assistance you need in managing children or getting alternate transportation. If there's an accident, you also need to complete the auto accident information form, which is located in the glove compartment. Make sure you get the following information: the police officer's name and report number, so you will need to call the police. Names and addresses of all involved in the accident, including the witnesses. Names, addresses, and phone numbers of all insurance companies. License numbers of all vehicles involved. Driver's license number of all drivers involved. And the exact location of the accident. You will need to notify the business office within 24 hours of the accident and forward the auto accident information form and any additional information about the accident to the business office. I should say, if one of those things happen, like a vehicle accident or breakdown, it's probably pretty overwhelming. So calling your supervisor or the senior on-site supervisor and making sure you let them know what's going on, and they should be able to help you make sure you get all the information that you need. This is everything we have to talk about today. If you have any questions about anything we've talked about, please ask your supervisor about anything, or if you want to see the risk plan that we talked about and see some more in-depth information. Just overall, thank you for attending this training, for your time and your patience. I know it's not the most exciting topics, but hopefully now you have a little bit more information of what to do if there's an emergency at ECH and how to keep yourself and kids safe. Thanks.